Picking up where I left off, my parents came and got me from Georgia, and they took me back home to Missouri. After the Jesus boot camp experience, I felt like a failure. I was already someone who was looked at as someone who had difficulties in school. I had been told all my life that I had some obscure learning disability. So when I came back home to Missouri, I went to a Bible study group, and someone there told me that, college isn't for everybody, basically saying that I was incapable somehow, without her really knowing what happened or even making an effort to know what happened and what they were doing there at that camp. In a quick summary, those pastors abused their power. They put us all through a military training. Surprisingly, we didn't know what we were getting into, and then we were there for 3 days. I also felt like a failure because out of everyone from my church that had gone to this school, I was the only one that came back. Also, after the Jesus boot camp experience, I was on fire for God. And when I say on fire, this is a term people in our church would refer to someone who is, high on Jesus, if you will, or high on God. Basically, it's like if you've ever been around someone who is completely consumed or obsessed with something, and they're excited about that thing, and that thing is all they talk about. Imagine that person's obsession with Jesus. Oh yeah, I was that kid. One time I even got in trouble for worship when I did come back home to Missouri, and I was just praising God like a good Pentecostal girl that I was. It was a youth service on a Wednesday night, and I remember, I couldn't contain it. I just could not contain myself. I had to scream and jump and holler and scream in tongues and clap really loud because I just felt so on fire for God. After that worship service, the youth pastor actually pulled me aside and he said, you can't do that. You really cannot do that. Don't ever do that again. What you were doing is way too distracting. And he also didn't understand that I had been radicalized. My experience in Georgia at the Jesus boot camp, it really fully brainwashed me. The up part about this is I didn't even know it. I didn't even realize it. So looking back now, I was like Marjorie Kemp, wondering why on earth other people around me were not feeling what I was. This excitement for God. I mean, we were praising Jesus after all. I thought he deserved full-on praise for, being the savior of everyone. If you've been to a church service before where people are more dead than alive, that's what it was like. The ho-hum, clap, they're barely moving their lips, singing along. They can't wait to be done with the worship part so they can finally sit back down and fall asleep during the sermon. That's what that was like. Anyway, after that experience, I eventually drifted away from that church. I know. Yes. And I started going to Enter James River Assembly. It's still there if you go to the Ozarks. I'm laughing because a lot of my friends refer to James River Assembly as Six Flags for Jesus. And now that I think about it, it really is. Similarities. Okay, so first off, the parking is insane. The parking lot is probably just as big as any Six Flags theme park. Also, when you walk into the place, it's very much like and similar to when you walk into any of those theme parks where it's like you enter the gates and then there's all these kind of cutesy candy shops, ice cream shops, of course souvenir gift shops. And at James River it has that same effect. When you walk through the doors, there's a gift shop and then there's a Starbucks and there's a worship service that includes a light show. It's impressive. It's very impressive. I could understand why people would want to go. I would love to go to the bookstore. I wouldn't really care for the books, really, but I love bookstores. Coffee. I mean, come on. Go in those nice comfy seats. They're just nice and plush and they kind of recline a little bit. And there's a light show. Okay, anyway, this is what pulled me in. So fast forward. You all know now, or if you're new to this channel, you might know I'm an atheist, you might not, and it took a long time to get to where I am today. And I'm not an atheist because of anything bad that happened to me or anything else that happened to me when I was a Christian, and I'm not angry at God because I don't believe that a God I really don't think God exists. So I'm not angry at some deity. I've heard the saying before, and I can't remember who said it, so apologies. But it's kind of like everyone's an atheist in a sense, where if you're like monotheist, you believe your God is the one true God. And then other religions are like, no, my God is the true God. And then other people are like, no, my God. So it's like everyone is an atheist to an extent. Credit to whoever said that. Anyway, when I started rereading the Bible, and that freaked the hell out of me because it's fucked up. But now as I read it and as I study more literature, just world literature, I'm going to school for comparative literature, and the Bible reads very much like one of the many creation myths. It really does. It just has the same language. It has the same story. It has like a hero's journey, blah, 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 blah. You know, like the same kind of thing over and over. Like people have just told this variation of this same story. I mean, throughout human history, really. And I started thinking for myself and questioning things that really, I mean, come on. It really doesn't make much sense. It really doesn't. It really doesn't make much sense at all. But on a more serious note, it seems kind of odd looking back now because growing up, my biggest fear, like probably my number one fear, was the possibility of going to hell and burning for eternity. And I'd have nightmares about it as a kid. That was the most horrific mind psychology. Just imagining hell. That, as well as the damage that was done to me at that Jesus boot camp is what they called it. It's taken a lot of time for me to heal from those experiences. And when I even made that first video 3 years ago, I don't think I was even ready to talk about it then as much as I wanted to. As much as I tried to be ready to talk about it. I remember doing an interview with some guys, and I just remember like my voice shaking, sweating, like being really drained after an interview. Even from making that video, it's still taken time to process and detangle that. So, as brave and as smooth and as attempting to be articulate as I was in those videos a few years ago, there's been a lot of pain and a lot of therapy that has still gone on behind the scenes, but it is so much better now. It is so much better now. And I didn't think I would ever get here. Thinking about those things and writing about those things, it doesn't affect me the way it used to. And again, I never thought that would even be possible. So if you missed my first video, it's linked in the description, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye.